Hello everyone, my name is J. Daniel Woodstock. Welcome to Woodstock Games, where we talk about my games and others. But today we are going to talk about getting a booth at a convention. We had a booth at one of the biggest nerd conventions in Utah called FanX. So we want to talk to you about the application process, how much everything costs, and how much we ended up making. And then at the end, we may have some closing remarks talking about our next project, Terraform. Have you had a product where you wanted to get a booth at a convention, a farmer's market, or anything like this? Well, I'm going to take you through the process. Now, the first process is the application and kind of figuring out how to get there. Now, the first thing that we did was, of course, Google it. Google the application of said event. So for us, we really wanted to go to FanX because just a year ago, we were thinking to ourselves as we were walking through the halls of FanX, wouldn't it be awesome if I published my own game, Dice Fights, and then made it to FanX to have our own booth? And so we did exactly that. So we Googled FanX application for exhibitors, and we went and we put in our application first for the Artist Alley. Those were the cheapest ones, but we quickly found out that that was not the correct one to be applying for. And then they then told us that we should be applying for the Dealer Alley. So we did just that. After putting in the application, we eagerly awaited a response, and eventually we got one that said, hey, you are approved to now pay for your booth, and after you pay for your booth, we will then tell you if you get a spot in the convention. So we did just that. We paid for our spot. It ended up being a dealer inline booth that costed about $575, I believe. And then we were finally approved about 2 weeks later. So now you have your booth. What are the costs associated with it? So very first, the cost of the booth. So I had previously said $575, but it actually was $584 plus tax. That is the main base cost, and that will give you, in this case, 4 exhibitor passes, a table, as well as some chairs for you to sit at with a built-in skirt on the table. So those are some costs you don't necessarily need to worry about buying your own table, buying your own chairs. Those will be provided. But everything that goes into your booth, such as like a banner, any kind of signage that you want on your booth, as well as all your product, are some costs of the booth. But wait, there's more. Not only do you need to pay for those things that in our case cost us right around $200, not including the product, but also the cost to get to the conference itself. Now, we are based in St. George, Utah, and the conference was in Salt Lake City, Utah. So we had to use our vehicle, drive up north. We had to drive our company vehicle, which is a minivan, up north, where that's the only thing that could fit all of the things that we had to go. And we ended up costing us just some fuel alone around $150. Now, on top of that, all the food costs associated with it. Turns out eating in and around a convention is not the cheapest experience. It ended up costing me to pay for my food as well as my whole team's food right around $350. So now we're sitting at $500 just in the cost of food and gas. Now, luckily, my sister and a really good friend of mine live within driving distance of the convention, so I didn't have to pay for a hotel. But that cost alone could double your costs into the thousands of dollars. So just for us, the cost included that $584 plus the $500. So that puts us at $1,084 just in pure cost before we make a single sell. This is a huge burden on you to sell your product. But so people said the convention was the biggest in Utah. It was going to have tons of people that were willing to spend their money willy-nilly. But this is what actually happened. So now you're at your booth. You're thinking, wow, this is going to be incredible. Well, there were a couple hiccups for us. When we arrived, we were swiftly informed that we were not actually put into the dealer alley. We were instead put into the artist alley, a booth that cost about $200 less with less space. Now, we had purchased a giant banner about 10 or 8 foot by 4 foot that we had planned to put above our booth. But now we were in such a tiny space, the banner barely fit and it looked a little out of place. So hopefully we'll be able to go back and get a little refund for the differences. We're in contact with them right now. I'll give you an update a little later if that ends up being a thing. Now, sales the first day were pretty slow, but it was a 3-day convention, and so it's got more and more. And by the end, we ended up making just a little over 4,000 gross sales. Now, what does 4,000 gross sales mean? That means before we gave any discounts to people, before the taxes, before everything involved, the processing fees, and that in itself could be its own video. So I'm just going to stick with the gross number. So we ended up spending, like I said, around $1,084, and we ended up getting gross sales of about $4,000, not including the cost of products and all those things. So all in all, it was a giant success. But you got to be careful. Lots of the vendors there in FanX were very disappointed with the amount of sales that they received. Many people not even making back table. Making back table is when you don't even make the money that you spent on your table and the supplies to get there. And that was just so sad to hear, but I was very happy of how well we ended up performing at the FanX. Hopefully this information was good, and now let's talk about Terraform. Terraform is the next game we're coming out with. We started with Dice Fights, and now we're moving on to our next project. We're planning on running a Kickstarter for Terraform come January 2024. Check us out on Kickstarter. There's going to be some links down below, as well as our website, woodstockgames.com. Please check it out. We're going to be doing some more videos that are going to be showing the art that we've been getting. We're currently have all the artwork done, and now we've passed it off to a graphic designer that will be putting all of the things together, and we will soon have a prototype to show you. Please subscribe and follow our journey. Thank you so much for your support. If you made it this far, I love you so much, and have a good day.